Good morning and welcome back to Cooking with Carol Diane. This morning, it's a real rainy day in Colorado today. I have not been online with my videos in a couple of weeks. I had a back injury, and so I was pretty much flat in bed for almost 2 weeks. And so life kind of made a stopping point right there for me. This morning, before I begin the recipe that I'm going to cook, which is an angel food cake, one of my favorites of all time is an angel food cake, I'd like to give thanks out to a couple of people that really got me through a very difficult time. I want to thank my daughter-in-law out there for when they came to see me, her and my oldest son, that she went shopping for me while I was down. She went to 2 different stores. I live in what I call a mini city, and you have to go kind of all over the place for different things. And instead of just going to my local grocery store, which is around the corner, she took it upon herself to go out of her way to get me all the things that I needed on my list while I was flat in bed in a lot of horrific pain. So I want to thank her this morning. Also, I'd like to thank my oldest son for, I had about 4 different trees that we were going to plant. And because you're down with a back injury and you can't, get the shovel out and start digging, he planted my trees for me. He got my irrigation all up and running so that I could water everything outside. So I really appreciate both of them stopping in town from Wyoming, all the way down from Cheyenne, Wyoming, to help me in my time of need. I'd also like to thank my youngest son's girlfriend for coming over one evening and rubbing oil on my back to help relieve my pain and warming up my dinner for me. I'd like to really thank my son who lives the closest to me. He was able to get me to doctor's appointments, making me dinner night after night, bringing me ice packs, bringing me my hot tea and making it exactly the way I like it, bringing me all kinds of liquids so that I could take my medications. He was just always there for me. And I do thank him and appreciate all that he has done for me. His girlfriend, who I don't know real well, she's new in the picture right now, she saw me at my worst. Truly. And if you have been down sick in bed, you know that, you don't get up in the morning and you don't fix your hair, you don't put your makeup on. I wore pajamas for 2 weeks and she didn't care. She took care of me anyway. She took me to some of my appointments, stayed right there with me, which, oh my gosh, at this age in life, it is so appreciated to have somebody stay right there with you in the doctor's office. And she did. She picked up my medications for me that I needed. She fixed me meals, whether it was lunch or dinner. She cared for my pets, making sure that they went outside. Picked one up, the blind one that I have. She would pick it up and make sure that he would go outside to go potty. And gosh, I appreciated all that she had done for me. And last but not least is my granddaughter who sent me flowers. She sent me flowers and she has called to check on me right regularly. So I want to thank all the people that when you're down and out and can't move and in a lot of pain like what I was and still am, I'm still suffering a little bit from it. But gee, to have friends and family come over and do for you during this time, I just can't tell you how much I appreciated everything. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. So today, like I said, I want to set things aside now and go into telling you about finding a good recipe for an angel food cake. Well, that was kind of difficult for me. I asked for a recipe, which I did get. I went through my recipe books of different things, and I wanted to kind of show you this little book. It was my grandmother's many years ago. It's old, it's worn out. It was published back in 1903, and it is called The Great 20th Century Cookbook. This is it right here. And you don't find them anymore. There is one on Etsy right now that is for about $60, $62 I think it was, and one on eBay for $299.99. I don't really care. I just like the book of what it has in it. When my grandmother passed away, she gave it to my mother, and my mother gave it to me many years ago, and I've hung on to it. And not only does it have different recipes in this, when I opened the book, what kind of cracked me up was I found 2 meat market receipts that were from my grandmother when she shopped at a meat market near her house. One is called the Red and White Stores, Olson and Olson Groceries and Meats. And this was, one of them was October 1st, 1932. And the other one was February 24th, 1932. Has her name right on here. And one of them has, I mean, it was kind of funny to look at these and go back in time, that far back in time. Not only is this an ancient book that is falling apart in many, many ways, but still has the recipes in it, still has what I want in it. I was getting a big kick out of what she bought. She bought a large 5-pound lamb for $1.10. Or she would buy a loaf of bread back then in 1932 was 9 cents. She bought a pound of, I think they were mini marshmallows for 26 cents. So these 2 little receipts just kind of said it all, of the oldness and going back time. So I kind of treasured those. But then while I was going through the book, and I had to find it, I had to find the angel food cake one. I said the pages are all torn. It's in pretty bad shape, but it's still here as far as the recipes. And not only does it have recipes in here, this book has everything from how to clean a toilet to how to get stains off of things, whether it's red ink, you know, or black ink, furniture polishes that you can make at home. It just has all kinds of good little treats in here. So I came to the page of, and I have to be very careful because, like I said, this book is very old and kind of apart. And so I want to kind of read you a couple of different variations of an angel food, a homemade angel food cake. Certainly you can go buy an angel food cake at the grocery store and have that. And they're good, don't get me wrong. Or you can buy the ones that you can mix in the box like a regular cake mix. You have to kind of watch on that. I recommend, if you do that, to buy a good brand name one. And offhand, I can't remember without going to the grocery store because I haven't been anywhere in 2 weeks. Probably the Betty Crocker one or the Devil's Foods one. I can't remember who makes the angel food cakes, but it's all there. I mean, all you're pretty much assembling is maybe some water and the dry mixture that you're going to fold in. But to make a true angel food cake takes some preparation, and that's what I've done this morning. So in this little book of goodies right here, yes, it takes a lot of eggs. And what I got the biggest kick out of on this angel food cake recipe is it calls for 1 1/2 goblet full of powdered sugar. Now think about that in 1903 when this book was published, what a goblet full was. So I went in the cupboard, and I don't have a lot of wine glasses because I'm not an alcoholic drinker. So I did come up with my water goblet, and I measured out 1 1/2 cups of just sugar to see. Well, back then, I'm sure they had measuring cups and spoons and everything, but that's how it's read in the book, is a goblet full. So I measured the sugar in here of this glass, of this goblet, of 1 1/2, and it pretty well comes to the 1 1/2. Okay, so if that's how they measured back then, that's great. I'm not going to measure that way today, but I thought that was kind of cute. When we talk about our dashes and smidgens and all the different things of way, way back, the pioneers, what they used for measurements. Well, this one kind of threw me when I was reading in the book of a goblet full. So the goblet full is 1 1/2, probably depending on your goblet size of what you have. Most of them are pretty much the same size. Okay, so it was of the powdered sugar, a goblet full of regular sifted flour, it said, but as I go along, you're going to see this is not using all-purpose flour. This is not using raised flour. You're going to be using cake flour. So on this one, way back in 1903, they had still a goblet of sifted just flour, the egg whites of 11 eggs, and the cream of tartar. Okay, so that's one variation of, in this old book about going back in time of the great 20th century cookbook, that's just one recipe of an angel food cake. Now, as I continued to go along, I also went back in time to talk about getting inherited things. So from my grandmother's book, that then was my mother's book, to my aunt, who I'm named after, my Aunt Carolyn. She has this little book, which I have shown you before. It's just a little handwritten little book that she did. Some pages, not very many. In fact, I think it's only the first page here, that she did some little doodle art of some breads, that she had started her little recipe book, just a little quick reference of breads and muffins. And then I got to the angel food cake, and she has two different ones. She has one that calls for the 12 egg whites, yes. She also has one, if you didn't want to use 12 eggs, she has one that has 8 eggs. And she's calling for the 12 egg whites, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of the cream of tartar, 1 cup of sugar, and then 1 cup of Swan's Down. Now, if you don't know what Swan's Down is the cake flour that we're going to be using today. And she must have made it quite often, because she stops there. She doesn't tell you what a lot of these recipes in her book does not tell you the temperature, what to set your oven, how long to cook the cake, or anything. She's just giving you the ingredients. So I pulled that one. I also, in my recipe file cards, pulled 2 different ones that were angel food cakes from my grandmother. Again, still using the 12 egg whites, the cream of tartar. One calls for 2 tablespoons of cold water, 2 cups of sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, 1 3/4 cup of the cake flour. And one of them, if you wanted to make a yellow angel food cake, you would use the 6 egg whites, and then you would use the other 6 of the egg yolks. But we're not going to use any of those today. Then I went and because my husband was so nice and bought me my new KitchenAid mixer, red, to match in my kitchen, which is just great. So pretty much today is my first that I'm going to use this mixer and see how it works, which I'm sure it works just fine. This is the professional 6-quart, which I'm used to. And so that's going to be great today. And so then I went and got the KitchenAid cookbook, which is this. And I looked up on page 152, is their angel food cake. Now, most all of them that I found, the recipe stayed true to the oven temperature, which is 350 degrees, and about 35 to 40 minutes. That's pretty much on all of them, except for my Aunt Carolyn's cookbook, which has no oven temperature or time. Okay, so this one called for 1 1/4 cups of the cake flour. And I suppose whatever brand of cake flour you have in your grocery store is fine. I have always used the Swan's Down of the cake flour. It calls for 1 1/3 cups plus a 1/2 cup of sugar that you would divide, 12 of the egg whites, 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla, 1 1/4 teaspoons of cream of tartar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which is optional, but most of them did have salt in it, and Again, you're going to bake this at 350 for 35 to 40 minutes. Now, angel food cake, sponge cake, they're all a light cake. So the trick to this is after I get it mixed up here with certain things, the dry ingredients, we are going to fold in. We're not going to mix that in the mixer, so don't get confused. Then I asked Sister for her family recipe of the angel food cake mix. Again, she says 1 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 cup of cake flour, half a teaspoon of salt. She's using 10 large egg whites, juice of 1 lemon strained, but she didn't tell me how much. Just 1 lemon, whether that's a small, medium, or large lemon, I don't know. 2 tablespoons of lukewarm water, 1 teaspoon cream of tartar, half a teaspoon of almond extract, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Again, the oven is at 350 in an ungreased 9-inch tube pan. She wants you to sift together the half a cup plus 2 tablespoons of sugar, the flour, and the salt. You sift a second time. Now, this was important when I was reading on several different recipes, which I'm going to be showing. Twice, even 3 times sifting the dry ingredients is what's going to make the angel food cake a lighter rise and have a lighter texture. In a large bowl, combine your egg whites, your lemon juice, and lukewarm water. Stir the egg whites, stir in the cream of tartar, transfer all that to a mixer like this. I suppose you can use a hand mixer too. Use the whisk attachment, which I have on. Beat on medium to soft peaks, then on high speed. Slowly add the remaining sugar, vanilla, and almond. Beat until mixture firms up. Sift 1/3 of your dry ingredients over the whipped whites. Fold in another 1/3 and then another. Okay, didn't sound too bad. But you know what? I think the tried and true of what I'm going to go with today is my good old Better Homes and Garden. I have a Better Crocker cookbook. I've looked in several of them, but the angel food one in this one is what I'm going to use today. And again, the oven temperature is the same, 350. We are going to use 1 1/2 cups of the egg whites, which is 10 to 12 of the large eggs, which I have already done, and you need to set those egg whites out at room temperature. So while I was getting all this prepared, my egg whites have been out at room temperature. I'm going to be using 1 1/2 cups of sifted powdered sugar. I'm going to be using 1 cup of the cake flour, 1 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and 1 cup of the sugar. So with going through every single one of all your cookbooks, recipe cards, whatever you have in your house, the one that I'm gonna go with is the Better Homes and Garden, and I think I will do just fine with it. So I'm gonna put it right here with my stand so that I can kind of read it as I go along and make sure my measurements are exact. So let's begin to make a cake this morning on this dreary, not so warm, kind of cold day. I see that I filled my hummingbird feeder yesterday, and I already see the baby hummingbirds enjoying that, so I'm thrilled about that this morning. In the pouring rain, there's a hummingbird right outside my kitchen window. That's pretty special for Colorado in this time of year. Okay, so let's begin with our cake mix. So we bring the egg whites to room temperature, which, like I said, I already did. So here are 12 egg whites in here. And we're going to go ahead and put those in the mixer right now. But before we begin anything, we're going to take our dry ingredients here. And it says to sift the powdered sugar and the flour together. So again, the powdered sugar of what we need is 1 1/2 cups. And I've got my little sifter here. I'm going to take my big spoon here powdered sugar. I don't know how long I'll last today. I haven't been doing very well. I've been doing kind of baby steps with this back of trying to just kind of move my legs and move around, because it was my lower back that went out, and when it did, it really went out, and it was a pinched nerve and a bone that was out of its socket, and it took quite the maneuvering to get all that back into place, let me tell you. Okay, so I'm glad I'm here with you, joining you this morning. So here's the 1 cup of powdered sugar, and then here is the 1/2 cup. I've got just kind of scooping it all into my measure here. Cup. And we'll go ahead and just sift that until I get to the flour, which again is 1 cup of the cake flour. Okay. And 1 cup of cake flour. Like I said, any brand that you have of your cake flour, I'm sure will work. This is what's in my stores around here. So that is what I'm going to be using. 1 cup of the cake flour. Okay, we're going to sift that. Okay. Now, because they want you to sift this again and again, so I brought another bowl so that I can take this and transfer it, hopefully. Again, of doing some sifting to get it very fine and airy of the dry ingredients in here. If you don't have one of these kind of sifters, if you just have a little shaker kind, that would work too. I need to get me a larger one. Right now all I have is small ones, and one of these days I'll find me one that I really like, a nice sifter. But for right now I'm going with my vintage, tried and true. And again, I'm going to sift it one more time, just to make sure. It's kind of a little bit of a mess because of the powdered sugar. Powdered sugar is so fine. Mix that. And then we're going to go back to our mixer in our large bowl, and that's where we're going to start mixing up the egg whites with the cream of tartar and our flavoring of the vanilla. Okay, there's that part. And I will go ahead, clean up as you go, my mother always would say, clean up as you go. I'll go ahead and put it back in this one so that I can get it in my mixer bowl here. Hopefully have it not spill out all over the place, all on my new red mixer. Wouldn't want that, would we? Okay, so now we're going to turn on the mixer, and I'm going to whip these and add the cream of tartar and the sugar in, or the flavoring, excuse me, in, until it gets to be just kind of soft peaks. 1½ teaspoons of cream of tartar. This recipe does not call for salt I won't be adding it. Okay. And 1 teaspoon of the vanilla. Until it gets these stiff peaks. Shouldn't take too long. And then I'm going to need 1 cup of sugar. Still mixing along. So again, bring egg whites to room temperature. Sift the powdered sugar, which we did, and the flour 3 different times in a large bowl. Heat the egg whites and the cream of tartar and the vanilla with the electric mixer until they form soft peaks. Getting there. Then we're going to gradually add this sugar. I'll be putting mine in another vintage pan. This is ungreased. This is a tube pan. So I'm going to be using this one today. You can use any kind of an angel food cake pan, anything that has the tube part, which you're going to be putting this upside down when it comes out of the oven. Immediately when it comes out of the oven. And then it will pretty much drop by itself. If it doesn't, let it cool. And then what I usually do is take a nice knife around the sides and it'll come right out. It really will. Okay. They're starting to form the peaks. One more time so I don't have anything mixed up. When it gets to be the peaks, which it is, like that, peak. Now I'm going to gradually add my sugar, a little bit at a time. And this is basically what you do when you buy a cake mix type at the grocery store of Angel Food. They'll have 2 different packets in the box. And that second packet is this sugar mixture that you're going to slowly mix in. And it's nice to have it all done and ready, but it's just nothing better than a homemade cake. Homemade cake. And I'm just barely mixing it like this in here, just a little bit at a time. You don't want to dump it all the way in there. You just want to go slow at it. Mix it just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to stop the mixer, which this one did fantastic. What a pleasure to have something brand new like this. And take out my beater blade. Lift it off of its stand. This one's a little different from my last one. It has a little catch back here, which I wasn't used to when I first put it all together, is that when you pop it onto here, you push it back towards the back of the mixer and it locks it in. And that's great. That's really great. Okay, now here comes the dry mixture of what we got. And we're just going to use the rubber spatula here and we're going to just fold it in a little bit at a time. Another, just little bit at a time around here of folding it in because we don't want the cake to flop on us. You know, we want it to be still nice and airy. And we will have that once we fold it in. I hope. It's been many years since I have made a homemade angel food cake, and truly I could have gone to the grocery store. Well, had someone go to the grocery store with me and bought the cake already made, or one just from the box mix to do this. But I like to show young people it's not hard to make a cake. It really isn't, from scratch. I couldn't drive the car. I was taking some pain medication and some muscle relaxants, and it was where I absolutely couldn't get behind the wheel and didn't want to of driving, and that's why I so appreciated these young girls coming and helping me get anything I wanted. They didn't bat an eye at it. They really didn't. Whatever I needed, they were here to get for me. And like I said, this one absolutely went above and beyond the call of duty on helping somebody. She was a sweetheart. He's got to have her stick around. She's kind of my right arm. I didn't get girls in my family. I had 4 sons that I had, and I didn't get the girl. So having my sons have girlfriends, or now wives, has been a true blessing for me, especially when you get older in age. I'm just trying to get the mixture at the bottom worked in. I don't want to do too much, but I do want to get that cake flour mixed in as much as I can, and yet not mix it too much. Okay, we're going to start now and put it in my pan. Like I said, ungreased pan. A lot of the new tubed pans now are Teflon coated, and so that's kind of nice that you don't have to worry about anything sticking on your pan. Used to have to be able to spray these or grease the heck out of them, and you don't have to do that anymore for these pans. Sorry that my camera doesn't do the little close-up here. I'm showing you every process of what I've done here in the bowl, but I think you get the gist of it here, that you're just gonna, like any other cake, you're just gonna make sure that it goes around in the pan. And I remember my mother doing this next step, which I will go get. Just didn't bring it out. Just a minute, I'll grab my gadget here. She would always take on her cakes, especially one like this, that she would take a very thin knife, and that she would go along just to give it the air, about like that. So that is the cake right now that we're going to put, I'm going to put in the oven at 350, and I'm going to do between 35 and 40 minutes. And then when I get it out of the oven, I'll come back on the video and show you what it looks like. So stay tuned. I'll be right back. I am back. My cake is out of the oven. It took about 37 minutes to bake, and that's okay. So here's the little angel food cake. I'm going to cut in and have a slice of this cake today, just to show you that good things really do come to those who bake. Several ways that you can have this cake. Plain, just like this is great. I have some fruit that you can always add. Some strawberries, blackberries, or raspberries are always good on an angel food cake. Or absolutely you can top it with your favorite whipped cream any way you like it. Or as my mother used to do years ago and got me in the habit of it, was to just take some butter and put on here. Light, moist, delicious, my kind of a treat. It stopped raining this morning. The sun came out, the birds started singing, and that's great. I'm all for that. It's been a glorious morning, and I hope you have liked my little video showing you how to make a homemade angel food cake. From my kitchen in Colorado to yours, go bake yourself a cake. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.